Almost every MMA fan thinks they understand judging, but most don't. Every year, millions of MMA fans leave an event furious. That was a robbery. The judges were blind. How can anyone score that fight for him? Social media explodes. Comment sections become war zones. Entire careers change because of 3 scorecards. Championships have been won. Legacies have been destroyed. And fans still ask the same question. How do MMA judges actually score a fight? Because the truth is, most fans are judging fights using completely different criteria than the people sitting cage side, and that's why controversial decisions keep happening. This is the story of a rulebook almost nobody has actually read. And how understanding just a few pages completely changes the way you watch mixed martial arts forever. Chapter 1, the biggest myth in MMA. There is one sentence you'll hear after almost every close fight. He controlled the fight. It sounds logical. If someone is pushing forward, backing their opponent toward the fence, throwing more punches, surely they're winning. Right? Not necessarily. Because under the unified rules of mixed martial arts, control isn't the first thing judges look for. It's not even the second. In fact, a fighter can control almost an entire round and still officially lose it. That surprises many fans. But it shouldn't. Because judges aren't scoring who looked busier. They are scoring who caused more effective damage. And that single word, effective, changes everything. Chapter 2, the number everyone ignores. There are only 3 main criteria judges use. Not 10. Not 20. Just 3. Effective striking. Effective grappling. Then, if those are completely equal, effective aggression. Only after that. Cage control. Notice something? Control. The thing fans talk about the most comes last. That's not opinion. That's literally how judges are instructed. Imagine fighter A spends for minutes pressing his opponent against the fence. Looks dominant. Crowd cheers. But lands almost nothing. Meanwhile, fighter B escapes. Lands one clean elbow. Opens a deep cut. Rocks his opponent. And the horn sounds. Who wins the round? Most casual fans say fighter A. Most judges score it for fighter B. Because one damaging strike outweighs minutes of ineffective control. The objective isn't to reward activity. It's to reward impact. And that distinction has decided world championships. Chapter 3, the fight that changed everything. For years, judging looked very different. Control mattered more. Top position mattered more. Holding someone down could win rounds even without significant offense. Then, fighters adapted. Some wrestlers discovered they could secure a takedown, stay on top, throw almost no meaningful strikes, and still walk away with the round. Fans hated it. Promotions hated it. Even many judges hated it. The sport had evolved. The scoring hadn't. So commissions made one of the biggest judging changes in MMA history. Damage became king. Not visible blood. Not broken bones. Effective offense. That meant judges were now instructed to reward actions that had the greatest immediate impact toward ending the fight. Suddenly, one clean knockdown could outweigh several minutes of harmless control. The philosophy had changed forever. And many fans never realized it. Chapter 4, what judges actually see. Here's something else almost nobody talks about. Judges don't watch the same fight you do. You're watching television. Multiple camera angles. Slow motion replays. Commentary. Statistics. Strike counters. Close-ups. Judges have none of that. They sit on different sides of the cage. If the referee blocks their view, that's their view. If one fighter's back hides a punch, they might never see it. If commentary says, that rocked him, the judges never hear it. They are making decisions in real time. With one angle. No replay. No pause button. Imagine trying to score one of the fastest sports in the world, without ever being allowed to watch it twice. Suddenly, those controversial decisions don't seem quite as simple. But if judges are all following the same rulebook, why do 3 experienced officials still disagree so often? The answer lies inside one word. Effective. Because in MMA, not all punches are equal. Not all takedowns are equal. And not all damage is visible. That's where judging becomes one of the hardest jobs in professional sports. Part 2, what judges actually reward. So, what exactly is effective? Because that one word decides championships. It decides undefeated records. It decides million-dollar contracts. And sometimes, It decides who gets remembered as one of the greatest fighters of all time. The unified rules define effective striking as legal strikes that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute toward the end of the fight. Notice what isn't mentioned. Volume. Noise. Crowd reaction. Commentary. A fighter can throw 50 punches. If 48 hit the gloves, one barely grazes the shoulder, and one lands clean, those 50 punches don't automatically win the round. Now imagine the other fighter throws only 12 punches, but 3 of them snap the opponent's head back. One buckles their legs. Another opens a cut. Those 12 punches may have done far more damage than 50. This is why significant strike numbers can be misleading. Not all significant strikes are actually significant. A jab that barely touches the forehead counts. A devastating body kick counts. A crushing elbow counts. On television, they are all one statistic. To judges, they are completely different. Chapter 6, the most misunderstood weapon in MMA. Now let's talk about wrestling, because this is where fans get confused more than anywhere else. A takedown, by itself, does not win a round. Read that again. The takedown is only valuable if something happens afterwards. Imagine fighter A shoots, gets the takedown, holds top position for 3 minutes, but lands almost nothing. Fighter B stands back up, lands one combination that rocks fighter A. Who wins? Under today's judging criteria, that single damaging exchange may outweigh 3 minutes of control. Now imagine a different situation. The takedown leads directly into heavy ground and pound. The bottom fighter can't defend. Is eating elbows, trying desperately to survive. Now the takedown matters. Not because of the takedown itself, because it created effective offense. That's what judges reward. The position never scores. What you do with the position does. Chapter 7, Submission Attempts. Submission attempts work exactly the same way. A guillotine that was never close doesn't mean much. A rear naked choke that forces the opponent's face to turn purple, that nearly ends the fight. That's enormous. Even if the submission fails. Judges aren't asking, was there a submission? They are asking, how close was the fight to ending? Because that's what MMA is. A contest to finish your opponent. Everything else is secondary. Chapter 8, the invisible damage. One of the hardest parts of judging is that damage isn't always visible. Everyone notices blood. Cuts look dramatic. Swollen eyes look painful. But blood doesn't always mean a fighter is losing. Sometimes a tiny elbow opens a huge cut. Other times a fighter absorbs 20 devastating body kicks and barely has a mark on him. The body doesn't tell their whole story. Judges are trained to watch reactions. Did the fighter lose balance? Did their legs buckle? Did they stop attacking? Did they desperately shoot for a takedown? Did they suddenly become defensive? Those reactions reveal damage for more than blood ever could. Chapter 9, why 3 judges still disagree. Here's the uncomfortable truth. MMA judging isn't mathematics. It's educated interpretation. Imagine a close round. One judge values a clean right hand. Another believes the body kicks caused more cumulative damage. A third thinks the near submission was the biggest moment. All 3 are following the same rules. All 3 are experienced. All 3 can still reach different conclusions. That's because judging isn't about counting moments. It's about weighing them. And humans don't always weigh things the same way. Chapter 10, the robberies everyone remembers. Every fan has one. One fight they'll never stop arguing about. One decision they still believe was stolen. Maybe it was John Jones versus Dominic Reyes. Maybe Georges St. Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks. Maybe Diego Sanchez somehow winning a decision people still can't explain. Years later, people still debate them. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Were the judges wrong? Or were fans using different criteria? Sometimes the judges absolutely make mistakes. They are human, but other times, fans reward pressure. Judges reward damage. Fans reward volume. Judges reward impact. Fans reward takedowns. Judges reward offense after the takedown. 2 completely different scorecards watching the exact same fight. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 284. When the final horn sounded, the arena erupted. Volkanovski had finished the fight on top. He was landing punches. Islam was defending. And for millions watching around the world, it felt like Volkanovski had won. But that's exactly where one of the biggest misunderstandings in MMA judging begins. Judges don't score momentum. They don't score who finishes stronger. And they certainly don't score the fight as one continuous 25-minute contest. They score it one round at a time. If fighter A wins the first 3 rounds, and fighter B dominates the 5th, that incredible final round doesn't erase what came before it. At UFC 284, many media members, fans, and even professional fighters were split on the result. Some believed Volkanovski's late surge should have earned him the fight. Others argued that Makhachev had already banked enough rounds through effective striking, grappling, and control that led to meaningful offense. Whether you personally scored it for Islam or Volkanovski isn't the point. The fight became one of the clearest modern examples of how perception and judging criteria are often two completely different things. Fans remembered the ending. Judges had to remember every round. Chapter 11, the 10-point must system. Every UFC round begins the same way. The winner gets 10 points. The loser usually gets 9. That's why most scorecards end 29-28. But occasionally, a round is so dominant that judges score it 10-8. Many fans think a knockdown automatically means 10-8. It doesn't. A 10-8 round usually requires overwhelming dominance. One fighter consistently damaging, consistently controlling, and giving the opponent almost no meaningful success. That's why they're relatively rare. Judges are encouraged to use them more today than in the past. But they still reserve them for truly dominant rounds. Chapter 12, the biggest mistake fans make. Here's a challenge. The next time you watch a UFC event, mute the commentary. Don't look at the strike numbers. Don't check social media between rounds. Just watch. You'll be surprised how much commentators influence perception. One excited voice can make an ordinary punch seem devastating. A slow-motion replay can make a strike look cleaner than it did in real time. Judges don't get any of that. They make one decision, from one angle. In real time, no replay. No second chance. Final chapter, the fight within the fight. In every MMA contest, there are actually 2 fights happening. One takes place inside the cage. The other, inside the judges' minds. Every jab, every takedown, every submission attempt, every moment of hesitation, is being evaluated against a rulebook most fans have never read. That's why 2 people can watch the exact same 25 minutes and leave believing completely different fighters won. Not because one of them wasn't paying attention, but because they were measuring different things. The next time Bruce Buffer steps into the center of the octagon and says, "After 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards," you'll understand something millions of viewers don't. Those scorecards aren't supposed to answer one question, who looked better? They are answering a different one. Who came closest to finishing the fight? Because underneath all the wrestling, all the striking, all the strategy, mixed martial arts has always been about one thing: ending the fight before the final horn. Everything judges score is simply a measure of how close each fighter came to doing exactly that. So maybe, the next controversial decision won't seem quite so controversial. Or maybe, you'll still think the judges got it completely wrong. But at least now, you'll know why they scored it that way. Outro. If this documentary changed the way you watch MMA, let us know in the comments. Which UFC decision do you still believe the judges got wrong? And more importantly, after understanding the rules, would you score it the same way today? Because sometimes, the biggest controversy in MMA isn't what happened inside the cage. It's what happened after the final bell.